What's going on, people? We are Tottenham TV. Welcome back to another episode of the Premier League Spur-Spective, which is the review show from Predict the Prem, where me and this guy go head-to-head in predicting Premier League outcomes. And we've got scores as well. At the moment, it's 273 to 303. And the way the scoring works is 5 points for a completely correct scoreline, 1 point for a correct result, and the star man, once you pick them, you cannot pick them for the entirety of the season, and it's 5 points for a goal, 3 points for an assist. And let's get straight into it with the best game of the weekend, which was Arsenal against Southampton. Finished 3-3 on the day. Sim went 3-1 to Arsenal. I went 3-0 to Arsenal. Well, we got the first bit right. Just we didn't suspect Southampton to have such a miraculous result here. Bottom against top this was, and within, what was it, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, it was 2-0 to Southampton. And you're thinking, what the hell is happening here? I think after that initial shock, Arsenal did really get back into the game. It was a sucker punch, really, that third goal for Southampton. But you got to say, Arsenal are well and truly bottling this league.
This was the definition of a bottle, I think. If you excuse them for dropping points against Liverpool because of the tough away game, and you excuse them for dropping points against West Ham because while tuning up because it's a London derby, then you can't excuse at home to bottom side Southampton, even though they're battling for every scraping for every point. You're at home, much needing to turn your fortunes around, and within 14 minutes you're 2-0 down. And not only you 2-0 down, but the first goal you literally gift them. That is like, what is Ramsdale doing? Yeah. Just gifting it straight to Alcaraz. Brilliant finish. Walcott puts them 2-0 up, and they did get back in the game at 2-1, but then they couldn't see it through, conceding a sloppy goal from a set piece, making it 3-1. And they did do very well to turn it around, but in some ways, that the way they scored those last two goals in the last minute will frustrate them even more, because like it was so easy, those two goals. Like it felt like they could just done that any time.
I thought they were going to go on to win it,
and they should have, because in the stoppage time they had 8 minutes. I don't know where those 8 minutes came from, by the way. They had 8 minutes stoppage time.
They had 7 minutes in the first half as well.
Yeah, I kind of understood that, because there was a stoppage. There was like Benrek was down, but I didn't understand the one in the second half. Didn't understand how they came to 8 minutes. Baffled me. But they had chance after chance. Made so many openings they couldn't put it away, and then Partey blazed it over, and that was like the last action of the game, really.
And Trossard hit the bar as well.
Trossard hit the bar. So they tried their best, but the goals they gave away were absolutely shocking. And this was a game where there was no room for error, I felt, in this game. And they really did bottle it. They really did.
And if you're going to defend like that at this stage of the season, you ain't going to win a title. It's just as simple as that, really.
Yeah, it seems like they're really reeling from the loss of Saliba, 100%. And they've that's 7 goals in the last 3 games they've conceded. So I think they're now in a situation where they have to beat City on Wednesday.
Yeah. All right, let's move on to Fulham against Leeds. 2-1 to Fulham on the day. Sim went 3-2 to Leeds. I went 2-2. But, a few weeks ago, we said Fulham are on the beach. They got back-to-back wins now in the Premier League. Leeds, on the other hand, really struggling down the bottom of the league. They need to pick up points as soon as possible. But you've got to give credit to Fulham for beating this Leeds side who are fighting against the drop.
Definitely. Leeds, that's now 4 defeats in 5, 3 defeats on the trot. They really are struggling, and they're lucky they're not inside the relegation zone due to the bad form of the teams around them. But they're going to have to really improve their performances if they're going to because if they're going to stay up, because they keep making such bad defensive errors. Meslier making a really bad error for Fulham's second goal. Harry Wilson, again, he's on fire at the moment. Harry Wilson, he seems to be doing things every week at the moment, or last 2 weeks especially. He's come into the side and he's playing quite well. But Leeds did have a late rally, but again, it was only due to an own goal, and it's just not good enough from Leeds. And they look like a team that are simply at the moment relying on other teams to keep them up rather than staying up.
For the drop. They really do. The amount of goals that they're conceding, no one around them is conceding anywhere close to the amount of goals that they're conceding. I mean, 2 against Fulham, 6 against Liverpool, 5 against Palace, 4 against Arsenal, 2 against Wolves, 2 against Brighton. I mean, it's way too many goals that they're shipping in at the moment.
Yeah, it's crazy. But luckily for them, they're still 16th.
Yeah, for now. So
lucky.
For now. But let's move on to Brentford against Aston Villa. 1-1 on the day. Sim went 2-2, so he gets a point for this one. I went for 2-1 to Villa, but it was 1-1. I mean, I didn't see too much of this game, but did you see much of it?
Unfortunately, I wasn't watching it, but it seemed as though Brentford were good value for their draw. It seemed as though Brentford were the better team throughout, and Villa actually came back later on and snatched an equaliser.
2.74 XG for Brentford.
Yeah, so Brentford at home, they're always difficult to play against, and Ivan Toney had some chances. So good point for them after arresting a bit of sliding form for them. So it was a good point. Villa, I mean, away at Brentford's not disastrous. On the form they're on, they'll be disappointed, but it still keeps them in the hunt for at least a Europa League spot.
Yeah, but I think, fine, they might be disappointed, but if you go away to Brentford and you come away with a draw, it's still a good result, isn't it? It's not exactly a bad result, bad, especially for Villa.
Yeah.
Moving on, Crystal Palace against Everton, 0-0 on the day. Both of us went 2-1 to Crystal Palace, and that ends Roy Hodgson's 100% record on his return to Crystal Palace. Everton, on the other hand, kind of stopping the rot away from home as well. So maybe that might be a really important point for Everton come the end of the season.
It'll be an important point, but I think Palace will be a bit disappointed they didn't win the game, considering Everton played some of the game with 10 men.
10 minutes,
10 minutes with 10 men. Still, you'd expect them to have a real good push and try and win the game. They had a couple of chances. They did have a big push towards the end. They just couldn't find the back of the net. Yeah, expected goals though, throughout the game, 0.5. It's not great. Everton did shut them out, but Everton didn't provide enough threat themselves. Calvert-Lewin did have a very good chance with a good turn, but chances were few and far between. And Everton definitely performances definitely sliding now. No winning 5 for Everton under Sean Dyche, and that's got to be cause for concern.
It is a cause for concern, but the way I'm looking at the relegation scrap at the moment, I'm thinking Southampton and Forest and one other, and I think that one other is going to be Leeds. I think Leeds are they're shipping just way too many goals at the moment. I think Everton will be able to pick up a few points here and there because they do have some sort of a resolute defence. So I think that defence is going to keep them up.
It's so tough to call. Even Southampton, they got the point, didn't they, against Arsenal? So who knows? Maybe that'll be turn around their fortunes. You see it with so many clubs as well. So I think Everton, I think Calvert-Lewin's come back at the right time, but they've got to get him firing. Otherwise, they could be in very, very big trouble.
Yeah, I mean, they got Calvert-Lewin for the run-in last year, didn't he? It didn't make any difference. It was all Richarlison that really did the work. So let's see how they can do it without Richarlison this year. But let's move on to Leicester against Wolves in the Midlands clash. 2-1 to Leicester. Leicester finally getting a win behind them, and a really important win against an on-form Wolves. Sim went 2-0 to Wolves. I went 1-1, but Leicester got all 3 points here.
Yeah, and Wolves did take the lead with a really nice goal from Matthias Cunha into the back of the net, just outside the box. Really good finish. But Leicester, to be fair, I was doubting whether they had it in them at the moment, because even under Dean Smith, they didn't seem to be playing well, but they rallied. They actually were on top of Wolves for a lot of that second half and deservedly overturned the result. Good Kelechi Iheanacho and Castagna with a couple nice finishes. Interesting enough, he played a front four of Tete, Iheanacho, Daka and Vardy from the start. And that really, maybe it seems a change of attack and change of formation. That's a lot of pace there with Daka in it and Vardy, maybe Iheanacho just behind, and Tete there as well. So maybe if he can figure out a way to get all these players into the team, maybe they can be a lot more of a threat going forward than they have been so far. Because I think before that, he's been playing Vardy by himself up front. It just hasn't been working. Vardy's completely lost his legs. But when you add Iheanacho and Daka around, maybe there's something to be had there for Leicester. And look, with Maddison back as well, should be back next game. They've got such good attacking talent. I'll just be amazed if they can't make use of it. It's just their defence is all over the place. But what a big win, being a decent Wolves side, who are off the back of 3 games unbeaten before then. Yeah,
absolutely. That'll be big win for them. It really will. And especially with teams dropping around them this weekend, I think that those 3 points will stand them in really good stead. It might give them the lift that they need to go on to the final weeks of the season to really save themselves. But let's move on to Liverpool against Nottingham Forest. 3-2 at Anfield to Liverpool. Sim went 4-1. I went 3-0. And you know what? This game probably should have been more to the 4-1 or the 3-0. I thought Liverpool really put Nottingham Forest under the cosh for the majority of the game. And I felt Nottingham Forest just kept getting these breakaways and sucker punching Liverpool against a run of play. But I thought Liverpool were well worth their 3 points.
It just felt like Liverpool could score at any moment, didn't it? It was 0-0 somehow at half time, but Second half, they kept creating those openings. They definitely took advantage of them. But Forest kind of just kept getting ones against run of play. They got a deflection from Nico Williams. Morgan Gibbs-White got one from a long throw as well. They just kept getting the rub of the green. On the odd occasion, they did go forward. But it's almost as if it felt like when Forest scored, Liverpool just felt like they can just go and score whenever they wanted, and they hit back immediately, essentially every time. And they deservedly won. They should have scored more goals, Liverpool on the day. But a good win for them. And how does that leave them? That leaves them in 7th at the moment, with a game in hand. Well, game in hand on us, 3 points behind. But in terms of top 4, they're 9 points behind Newcastle still, same games played. So I think there might be too much catching up to do in terms of the top 4. But in terms of Europa League, I think they should be all right. They're only 3 points behind us in 5th with a game in hand.
And we've got Anfield next weekend.
So I think they're looking like favourites for that Europa League spot now.
Yeah, let's just hope we can get the no Europe instead of the conference.
Yeah, let's hope so.
But let's move on to Bournemouth against West Ham. 4-0 to West Ham in a very comprehensive victory at the Vitality. And I really thought Bournemouth were going to make more of a fist of it in this game, to be honest. Sim went 1-0 to Bournemouth. I went 1-1. And it looks as though West Ham are close to safety now. They are pushing towards mid-table. And with all the narrative surrounding West Ham, how poor they've been this season, to push close to the mid-table and to be in a Conference League semi-final, it's actually not looking too bad for West Ham.
Especially for a lot of the season, a lot of the narrative has been Moyes is set to leave at the end of the season. He's probably not going to last the season. I know we have a West Ham family member, a sporting family member, who's sick of Moyes and wants him gone. But especially if they win the Conference League and they stay up, which staying up now looks like it's going to happen. I mean, that's a brilliant season for them. Probably their best ever season, you could argue, if they win.
Especially if they win
win it, yeah. So, and I mean, they're probably the best team left in it, to be honest. So I wouldn't put it past them. They're doing very well in Europe. And look, they've put themselves in a good position now, safety-wise. To go away at Bournemouth is not easy, especially Bournemouth, how they're playing at the moment. And to beat them 4-0, especially after having that Thursday night football, very impressive. You've got to give them credit for that. Declan Rice has seemed to adding goals to his game recently as well, becoming that more complete central midfielder. Fornals with a bit of a scorpion kick as well, with a finish. So, I mean, not maybe as nice as like Giroud's or Mkhitaryan's, but still, counts as a scorpion kick. So fair play to them. Good win for them. 5 points clear of the drop with a game in hand as well now. So they're looking, 6 points clear of the drop with a game in hand. So they're looking good at the moment. I think them, Palace, Wolves, and maybe Bournemouth is just still in it. I think Wolves, West Ham and Palace, I think they're all right now.
Yeah, I agree. It's Bournemouth and down, to be honest. And last but not least, Newcastle against Tottenham, 6-1 to Newcastle on the day. Absolutely tragic display, disgusting display. Sim went 2-0, I went 3-1. Both get a point on the board there. But less said, the better, I say.
Yeah, we've said enough about that absolute shit show.
And let's move over to the star men. Sim went for Diego Jota, who scored 2 goals on the day, so he gets 10 points for that one. And to be honest, he could have had more on the day. Diego Jota played really well. Definitely should have scored a hat-trick, to be honest. And I went for Eberechi Eze, who did score, but it was offside, so I get 0 points for that one. So we end up on 286 to 305 going into the midweek fixtures, and Predict the Prem will be with you tomorrow. So thank you everyone for joining us today. Like, subscribe and comment, and as always,
come on you Spurs.